Hello, I'm Bink. Full name Ben Harrison. This is a Bink report on the first Biden effect. It is opinion. Last week we had the first day. The first day of what, you might ask? It was the first day of the Great Reset. This is a disaster for our country. One Biden effect is the betrayal of the American worker. The allegedly fairly elected president has already negated Trump's best protections at putting first the American worker, especially contract laborers. But now the first Biden effect is to advertise to hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants, we are returning to open borders. Just come on up and find your way across. Even though the trip itself kills South Americans, Joe Biden could care less. In spite of the Democratic habit of believing something in order to see it, think about that one, Trump's wall, to the contrary, was a huge success. It worked despite the Dems' claim walls don't work, except, of course, when they encircle their offices or personal residences. Now we see the reappearance of mass marches toward the border thanks to Biden's crazy reanimated border policies, for which Americans will pay. This is the first Biden effect that's dramatically visible. Mass numbers of desperate people aggregating with reportedly the financial help of George Soros to breach our southern border. These people will get to enjoy the benefits of the socialist policies of the Dems, all at the expense of middle-class tax-paying Americans, and especially blue-collar workers. This is globalism at work. Bring down your country to a low international standard and make everybody dependent on the Democrats. The huge number of both low and high-skilled workers will soak up jobs and reduce hourly wages. That doesn't matter to reporters, media execs, deep state jobbers, nor to Democrats. Further, illegals, among them violent and nonviolent criminals, will rediscover the easy predation of American citizens, as well as other illegals. You can get away with anything when you're invisible, right? Perhaps that's why Biden stayed in his basement. No hard questions there, except the ones that might be rattling around his brain. But back to the wall. The real question is why? Why would an American president want to shut down the very thing that protects his people in so many ways? Well, before I even try to answer that, you need to remember you were set up for it. Our alleged president told you what he was going to do as soon as he got that guy out of the White House. Then hundreds of corporate-aligned talking heads who care as little about your jobs, health, and safety started parroting their talking points. They parroted in the normie media, squawked about human rights on cable networks, incessantly lied about what a bad guy Trump was all the time while social media blocked his comments as well as those of his supporters. But what was the real underlying reason Biden was so hell-bent in signing his big executive order to stop construction on the wall? Sure, he hates Trump. Biden is full of bile and spite. Biden knows, along with the White House satraps, that time started running out the moment he took office. First, time is draining away his physical health. Second, a mental decline seems to be taking place. It is reported he repeated out loud the reminder in his earphone to salute the Marines as he passed. He passed without saluting. If it gets worse, his mental decline especially makes him vulnerable to removal under the 25th Amendment. I believe that would just be fine with Democrat Jacobins intent on installing Kamala Harris as president. Then you might see Republicans trying to keep him in office. Third, of course, Hunter's laptop. I believe it likely contains evidence Joe Biden, when he was officially vice president, was actively involved in collecting payments for access to government levels and Obama himself. Once again, I believe radical Democrat Jacobins would love to see him tossed out of office. Fourth, finally, let's not forget the massive documented election fraud that benefited the Democrats. This too is a wild card. It could result in Biden's impeachment as well as Democratic rout in the midterms if the Republicans have courage to primary the rhinos and replace those who abandoned Trump. Who knows what's going to happen? The Democrats have demonstrated a blazingly obvious lack of shame, and they still have their old media, academic, and corporate allies. Anyway, they may not even have to cheat to hold power if Biden's immigration policies assure the Democrats will have a whole new population of voters generation after generation. The massive numbers of illegals will radically change demographics to keep the Dems in power in a one-party nation forever, while none, that's nada, of their crimes will ever be examined, except perhaps in history books. Think this cannot happen in your country? It's happening now. So what is it that you think? What is it that you can do? I want to know. Comments welcome in video or email. I may use them in part or whole in my reports. Mark private in the subject line if you want to keep your message confidential. Look for a link that says support for the ways you can support my commentary.